So the final section of the tasting is the tasting of the Valpolicella by Allegrini, the Ripasso di Valpolicella from Cortegiara, and the Amarone di Valpolicella, also from Cortegiara. And this is designed to illustrate the difference between three different methods of production, but all Valpolicella.
The Allegrini family estate covers 120 hectares, and they have been growing grapes for 6 generations. The southeast-facing vineyards are located in the hills of the Valpolicella Classico, the highest quality zone. Allegrini are long established as one of the finest producers in the Veneto region and are famous throughout the world. This is their entry-level Valpolicella, made from 70% Corvina and 30% Rondinella. Stainless steel fermentation and no oak maturation, this typifies the light, fruity pleasure that top-class Valpolicella delivers. Cortegiara is Allegrini's Negociant label, whereby they buy in fruit as well as using their own vineyards. By maintaining the same impeccably high family standards, they produce excellent quality, but retaining value. The Ripasso is made by re-fermenting a standard Valpolicella on Amarone skins in February after harvest. This allows more alcohol to develop, and this combined with 11 months in Slavonian oak adds a richness and weight to the wine. The Amarone is made from bunches of grapes that have been dried for 4 months, and the resultant juice is incredibly concentrated. Fermented to dryness, Amarones will reach 15% alcohol or higher. Aged for 15 months in Slavonian oak, the style is rich and concentrated.
So, starting off with the Valpolicella from Allegrini, compare this, if you like, with the Torre del Falasco, the Cantina Valpantena that we tasted earlier. But Allegrini, absolutely fantastic. One of Italy's wine families, without any question. Very highly regarded, world-renowned. And they're based just north of Verona. Absolutely glorious buildings and estate, absolutely sensational. And they are leaders in Valpolicella even production. So their example is characteristically fairly light, light to medium bodied in colour. Similar grape mix to the Falasco. But on the nose, perhaps a little bit of extra degree of concentration, but really vibrant, fresh, red fruits. But very much you could chill this down a little bit, but lovely sort of summer red. Palate-wise, relative to the Falasco, that's a little bit more weight, a little bit more concentration, perhaps suggesting perhaps more of a sort of more versatile as far as food's concerned. But again, lovely length, lovely finish. To me, some sort of earthy strawberry, raspberry fruits coming through. Lovely intensity, and I think that's what differentiates this Valpolicella and hence the price from the Falasco, albeit there's only £1.50 difference. I think you're just noticing that come through in that little bit of extra weight, extra little bit of richness in this wine. The second wine in this trio of Valpolicellas is the Valpolicella Ripasso from Cortegiara. Now, Cortegiara is a brand of the Allegrini family, and they use the sort of the fruit that doesn't make the cut for the top Allegrini wines. So, as you might expect, very high quality. But to me, more importantly, is the Ripasso style. If you're familiar with it, then you'll know just how good it can be. But if you're not, it's quite an interesting concept to understand. So what you basically do is you make a standard normal Valpolicella, but then that will be in September, October of the year. And then the following February or thereabouts, you have a second fermentation by adding that Valpolicella that you've made onto the skins that have been used to make Amarone. Now with Amarone, they dry out the skins before pressing them to give that sort of extra concentrated juice. And by passing those skins or just letting the Valpolicella just sit on the Amarone skins, you get a little second fermentation, an extra degree or so of alcohol, a little bit of extra weight and texture into the wine, and it transforms, if you like, a basic Valpolicella, which is quite light and fruity, as we've already experienced, into something more substantial, a bit weightier, and I think some Ripassos can be absolutely outstanding. And if you've not tried Ripasso before, then obviously this is your chance, but if you have, then you'll know what I'm talking about. So the wine also then spends a further 11 months in large old Slavonian oak barrels for further development prior to release. Now colour-wise, it's a little bit deeper than a standard Valpolicella. It hasn't quite got that sort of vibrancy of colour. Obviously it had the time in wood and not in stainless steel as the Allegrini did. And nose-wise, it's a different profile. Because of the wood aging, because of that process, the Ripasso method of passing over the skins of the Amarone, you get more intensity, more weight, more earthy sort of characteristics, but a bit of cherry coming through quite predominantly. And then palate-wise, this is where the real difference in palate is from a standard Valpolicella. Really intense, concentrated, lovely spice, but still oozing that sort of fresh fruit that you associate. So it combines this balance of the fruitiness of Valpol, but without perhaps the intensity of Amarone. Lovely, lovely wine, lovely finish. Cheese-wise, I originally chose the Pecorino di Sardo, the Sardinian Pecorino, slightly smoked, which actually I think on balance maybe a little bit too smoky, a bit too strong for the Ripasso. So I'm going to suggest that you go the other way around and taste the Gorgonzola. Now this comes straight out of this, and you just spoon it like this, and this is absolutely unctuously delicious. Now, having recovered from that oozing, melting Gorgonzola, another food pairing, a dish to go with this, I think would be a wild porcini mushroom risotto. Would do this very nicely. So our final wine, not only in this trio of Valpolicellas, but of the wine tasting as a whole, is the Amarone. And many of you will be familiar with Amarone, but for those that aren't, the important thing to know is the method of production. So September, October, the grapes are picked, but then those bunches of grapes are laid out on straw mats and kept in well ventilated rooms or barns, or in more modern cases, temperature control facilities where you can control the humidity very, very closely. And the aim is to dry those bunches out, desiccate them, so they lose anywhere between 30 to 40% of their bunch weight. The net result is these concentrated bunches of grapes, all shriveled, desiccated, slightly raisined. They look awful, has to be said. But when you press those bunches, you get a very, very concentrated juice. And a slow fermentation yields a 15%, sometimes higher, Amarone wine. And as you might expect with that concentration, they fermented out to dryness, so it needs a bit of time just to sort of develop and age. So this example has spent 15 months in Slavonian oak barrels, large old barrels, just to give that oxygenation and maturation before release onto the market. So nose-wise, I think this is what's always fascinating about Amarone, is that there's a sweetness, which is that sort of, to me, a real ripeness and sweetness of fruit, but it doesn't suggest it's going to be sweet on the palate. So real sort of sweet fruit on the nose, spicy, really intense, really sort of concentrated, almost sort of that sort of cassis, sort of almost alcoholic cherry on the nose. And then palate-wise, fabulously intense, lovely concentration. Now, worryingly, the 15% alcohol feels incredibly well balanced and harmonious. I'm not getting that typical burn at the back of the throat as often you get with high alcohol. Fantastic length, super finish. This is very much often described as a contemplation wine. You sort of sit with a glass of this at the end of a meal and put the world to rights. But super balanced, super finished, lovely fruit. A really, really good example of Amarone. Now, food-wise, I paired this to go originally with the cheese that the Gorgonzola that I've now suggested with the Ripasso. So trying this with the Pecorino di Sardo. Now, very, very aged Pecorino, smoked, quite a difficult cheese to pair. But the Amarone, I think, just about copes with it, because you've got that intensity of fruit, that spice. It really sort of goes very, very nicely with it. Food-wise, food pairing, my suggestion would be probably venison en croûte. I think would be absolutely sublime with this. And much as I'd like to coin a familiar phrase, here's one I prepared earlier. Alas, I have not. So that concludes our tasting for the Richmond and Teddington Wine Societies, our focus having been on Northern Italian wines. Can I just say, once again, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the wines. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you've seen some improvements, some changes from our first video last month. And I'd like to take this opportunity of enormous thanks to Julia for doing the editing, the thinking, just about everything really in the production of the video. So thanks very much. See you next month.